Okay, good afternoon to the viewers. This is another episode of Venture Watch. We are speaking for a second time with Dr. Francois Fong, who is the founder and CEO of the Neo Health Group in Hong Kong, a holistic health provider that also a world-leading specialist in the area of sexually transmitted diseases. We did a previous interview with Dr. Fong. You'll see the link on the podcast that you're looking at if you want to revisit it. Today we have a more specialized topic because Neo Health has moved into a brand new, fairly new facility, quite state of the art. So we thought it would be useful for viewers, whether they're existing clients of Neo Health Group or perhaps prospective ones, to give a walking tour to show what the facility is like, where it's located, for people who have an interest in private healthcare. So, good afternoon, Francois. How are you?
Good afternoon, John. I'm well.
Good to hear. Good to hear on this Easter weekend, and also a holiday in China. So we're both working. Let's kick off. So as we start, in the background, the viewers will see a map of your office and the general area around. Now, you were previously just across the street in the Li Dong building in Li Yuan East Street. How long had you been at that address? Was it your first location as a clinic? And secondly, when did you move into the new premises at your current location house, Worldwide House?
Yeah. We have been in Li Dong building for 12 years, since 2008. Prior to that, we were in a smaller building across the Four Seasons Hotel, a building called New York House, and it's a much smaller location. So in 2008, when we moved to Li Dong, we had occupied one floor, and we have developed over the years, and we're occupying 3 floors at Li Dong. But each floor, the floor space was much smaller. So after 12 years, we decided we moved into a bigger location and putting all the services and facility on the same floor.
Okay, and I've seen the facilities, so I also sense that the Worldwide House is a much more modern building than the Li Dong. So there's a change in that regard as well. Okay, so making a move of a large clinic such as yours, is that difficult to do? Does it take a long time to find the right new location? How many properties did you have to look at before you settled on Worldwide House?
Well, we have only looked at about half a dozen properties. For our requirement, we want to have all our facilities all on the same floor. And there aren't many buildings in Central that has got large enough floor size that will accommodate our needs. And therefore, we have only probably looked at just about half a dozen. And some of them were much smaller in terms of floor space. So that's why we eventually chose the Worldwide House.
Okay. Now, we'll take a look at some photographs. We've labeled them all, and the viewers will be seeing them on the screen. There's some exterior shots of the Worldwide House, A2 and A3. The postal address is 19 Daysville Road. Is this the only entrance to the building, or are there multiple entrances to get into Worldwide House?
Yeah, they're altogether 3 entrances. So one is on Daysville Road, which is the main address. There's another entrance on the other side of the building on Connaught Road. And there's a third entrance from the Bridgeway in Central, which connects IFC, Jardine House, Worldwide House, and many other buildings in Central location. And that entrance goes into the shopping mall in Worldwide House, which can directly go back into the commercial area.
Okay. Yeah, I see on photograph A2 the over the street walkway. I see in A3 the entrance. You're right beside the metro, so it's very centrally located. No pun intended, but also very different access points, so very easy to get inside. Okay. Now we'll looking at the building. It seems to be 32 stories high. And you're on the 11th floor. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right, John.
Okay, so we'll move along, and we've added a photo here, A3A, of the elevator bank. So are there dedicated elevators for your floor? Do elevators serve all 32 floors? How does getting up to Neo Health Group office on the 11th work?
The building is divided into 3 sections, and each section has got 4 individual lifts that go to each floor. So for our sessions, from 4th floor to the 12th floor, we have 4 lifts that actually got into each floor.
Okay, so it's very quick and convenient because I remember at the previous location there were just 2 elevators for the whole building, so a lot more elevator access in your new building. That's good to hear. Okay, now let's just sort of pretend we're taking the elevator up from the photograph in A3A. We get off at the 11th floor. We see photograph A4, and I notice you have 2 separate units on the 11th floor, one for the clinic, one for the office. Just describe that setup in general.
Yeah, in the past, we had the corporate office and the clinical area on separate floor, and we found that it was a little bit more less convenient for staff to move around and also for logistic reasons. So we decided to have the 2 merged together. So we are now occupying 2 units on the Worldwide House, and one part is the corporate office and the other part is the clinical area.
All on the same floor, so very convenient for staff to get back and forth from. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's firstly move and take a tour of the clinic. And you've provided us with a lot of photos there from basically P1 to P18A. So I will just read these out, and you can give the viewers a brief description of each of the photo, which will give them a good walking tour, firstly, of the clinic. So start us off with P1.
So P1 is our main waiting area for patients to come in and do their registrations and waiting to see the doctors or other therapists. And then P2 is our main reception area. So staff would be greeting patients from there, doing payments, and also giving out medications to them at the front.
Okay, and P3 is another shot of the reception area like P1. It seems quite spacious
Yeah.
and quite bright colors, whites. So that's very interesting to see. So I see a painting in P3, and I'm guessing that P4 is sort of turn right at the painting. Tell us what's down that hallway.
Yeah, so as you walk down P3 towards the painting, on the right-hand side, there's our doctor's consultation room, and you can see the corridor with different room name numbering in P4.
How many different doctors' consultation rooms do you have in the clinic?
We have 6 consultation room and 1 surgical room.
Okay.
And then 2 nursing room at the back.
So 9 rooms in total, quite large. Okay. So then we go along, and we're in P5. What is P5? Looks like a different sort of waiting area.
Yes, P5 is a separate what we call VIP waiting area. So for some patients who requires more discreet privacy, that would be the area we put them into rather than waiting at the open area.
Okay, so two different reception areas depending on the level of privacy needed for the consultation. That's interesting. Okay, so we go on and look at P6. Now we're into some sort of office here. It looks different. Tell us about P6.
P6 is one of our consultation room, and we set this up as a health screening office. So patients who come in for their body checks, they will occupy this room, and which have different equipments, including the body composition measurements machine, ECG, other blood pressure monitoring device, so that they will have their general health screen in one place.
And health screening services are an important component of the services you offer. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. we provide individuals general health screening service and also to some corporation for their staff annual medical checkup as well.
Okay, interesting. So onto P7. What do we have here?
So P7 is my consultation room. So similar to other consultation room where we see patients in our individual rooms.
Okay, so you spend most of your day in your clinical office as opposed to the corporate office. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Now, I'm just looking at that painting behind you. Is that where you are now, or are you out in the corporate office?
Yep, and at the clinical
Okay,
office.
interesting. Now, P8 is a different sort of photo. It's some very big chair, and I know you don't have dentists there, so tell us a little bit about what this is all about.
Well, this is a fully electrical surgical chair that we have newly installed. This chair can position at different locations, set in different positions, so that we can perform different type of surgery on patients. From cosmetic surgery, they can lie flat for other uh, minor surgeries. But we particularly like this chair because it has got some tilting mechanism at the lower end. So two of our surfaces are particularly require this setup for the colposcopy service for cervical cancer screening and also anal cancer screening.
Mhm. Okay, interesting. I mean, other beyond checkup, wellness, diagnostics, do you also perform minor surgeries in the clinic?
Yeah, we perform minor surgeries. Usually surgery that doesn't require general aesthetics, we can perform at our center.
Okay, very interesting. So moving along to P9, a more traditional looking pair of chairs, what do we have there?
Well, P9 and P10 are two of our nursing rooms. So patients who comes in without any major symptoms then just come in for regular checkup for either STDs or general checkup, where they just require simple blood test service. Those are the rooms that we'll set up for them to have the quick service.
Okay. Now, as we move along into I guess the remaining shots of the clinics, P11, P18, we're into a much bigger facility. Tell us what this is and just walk us through each of those individual photos. It looks like a lot of equipment there.
Yeah, the major part of our facility is a clinical laboratory service. So from P11 is the entrance of our laboratory. And P12 is a whole length shot of the whole laboratory from the front to the very end. So it's quite unique in our service that we have our own laboratory. So patients can receive their test result in a much faster pace than if we have to send out the samples to other laboratories.
Okay. Do you do a large percentage or all of your um, testing in the lab internally, or do you need to send some of it out for diagnostics?
Well, 90% of test samples we can process in our lab. Only about 10% we need to send out to other laboratories.
Okay, I mean, is that typical for GP clinics to have such a large lab on premises and do 90% of their testing in-house?
No, it is not common. Most doctors would send out their samples to outside lab for testing. But for because of we would like a quicker turnaround for our patients, and also so that their private information would not necessarily be released to outsiders. And that's why we decided to have our own laboratory. And also from a quality assurance point of view, we can actually see some of the result as raw data rather than just in getting a piece of report as a piece of paper.
Okay, and I guess the whole area of sexually transmitted diseases raises real privacy issues for a lot of people, so I can understand that point. Okay,
Hmm.
so
I guess another important part of having our own laboratory is we actually have those clinical samples kept for research purposes.
yes, that I mean that's I think another unique aspect about NHG Neo Health Group in that you do a lot of research and development, whereas a lot of GP practices don't do that.
That's right.
Okay. So let's look at some of the equipment in P13 through P18. Talk us through those photographs.
P13 and P14 are two of ELISA machines that we have, and we conduct a lot of the infection immunologies in those two machines, from HIV to hepatitis, H. pylori infections. Those are the machines that we use for testing our blood samples.
Okay.
And with the P14, the architect machine by Abbott, we also can do hormones, cancer markers, and a whole variety of immune assays using that machine.
Okay, interesting. And P15?
And P15 are some of the equipments that we use for biochemistry, and also cancer markers, and also cell counters to check for red cell, white cell, and platelet counts. Those are usually used for the general health checkups.
Okay. And P16, 17, and 18, looking at different equipment in those three pictures.
A lot of our test samples, we perform molecular tests on DNAs. And so P16 and 17, 17 is our extraction room to extract DNA from samples. And P16 is what we call a PCR room to actually magnify those DNA samples and to perform tests on particular STD, HIV infections. We use the molecular room mostly.
Okay, very interesting.
And the P18 is also a microbiology area where we have a PCR machine for an enclosed HIV testing machine and also culture machine for incubation for bacteria samples.
Okay, so now before we walk out of the clinic in photograph P18A, how many people work on the clinical side and how many would be in sort of the GP assessment side and how many would be in the lab?
We have about 20 staff on the clinical area, excluding doctors and other professionals, and we have about 10 staff in the back office.
Okay, so fairly substantial. Okay. So I understand that P18A, that the viewers will see, will be walking back out to the corridor, back onto the hall, and then we'll turn and go down to the office, starting in P19A, which I guess is just looking in. Tell us a little bit about that office and how many people work in there.
Well, we have about 10 people working in the back office now. That covers the HR department, finance department, marketing, and our logistics support team. And we also have small team members to covering for other business units, including New Farm, which is a wholesaling unit for HIV prevention medications.
Okay, and when I look in P19A very closely on the window on the other side, I see a Ferris wheel, so I'm guessing that is looking in the direction of the harbor towards the north. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so the people
that's looking into Victoria Harbour.
The people in the office have a room with a view. Okay, and then 20 and 21, I guess, are the units you talked about. 21 is a meeting room.
Yeah.
So we've completed the tour of the office, and we'll just leave photo X1 of your logo on, and just finish off with a few comments looking towards the future. Now, you're in a bigger, more modern office. I know you're looking at expansion, although perhaps more in the telemedicine and the physical offices. How do you see the Worldwide House over the next 3 to 5 years? Is this going to be big enough to accommodate all your activity or expansion? What's Neo Health going to look like in 3 years' time?
Well, I hope we'll need more room for expansions. Actually, the landlord have asked us to rent the next unit. They're right next to our current units already. But I think with the uncertainty with COVID, we have to be very conservative in our expansion. But I think telemedicine is a very important move for us in terms of particularly for our STD diagnostic service. A lot of people are very concerned about privacy and are reluctant to come out to clinics to actually get tested. And I think a telemedicine service and diagnostic service would be very useful for this group of people so that they don't delay their treatment and seeing doctors.
Okay.
So we hope we actually need more space, but for the time being, we can make use of our space and make it more occupied.
Okay, very good. Well, that'd be interesting for the viewers to see. There's a lot of photographs there that are high quality, and for any person who's perhaps considering new private GP services in Hong Kong that has not seen NeoHealth before, I hope this is an informative and interesting tour for them. And on the release of the video, we'll of course have all the contact details and websites of the NeoHealth Group, headquartered in Central, so that people can contact you directly if relevant. So thank you for the time, thank you for the photos, and we'll look forward to sharing this with our viewers on Venture Watch.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3.